You're listening to Style as Identity.
Yes, we're your hosts. I'm Frankie Ikwuazom.
And I'm Lola Catero. So, is starting a brand on your vision board?
Or do you just love fashion and want us to talk nerdy to you?
Either way, we got you.
Join us as we get into aspects of the trade that you might not find online. We're uncovering truths from the founders and designers daring to build within their vision and values.
These brands, they're shifting our understanding of the style status quo. And the more time we spend with them, the more we expect from what we wear and the brands that sell them.
So, we're glad you're here.
Let's do this. So recently I was at a Hold Steady concert, and I went because my friend is a big fan and I'm a fan of my friend. So I'm there and I'm not really into the music, but I'm feeling the energy of the crowd. Like, even as a spectator, it was so immersive. And honestly, I loved being around other people, being around something they love, right? The lights, the sounds, the vibrations. Today's guest gives that feeling, that immersive energy to us, but through clothes. She was awarded Best Inventions of the Year by Time Magazine twice now, and is the first fashion company offering smart textile-based garments. Francesca Rosella, founder of CuteCircuit, aka the Madonna of wearable computing. Hi, hello.
Hello, hi. Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's so good to have you, Francesca. We've been looking forward to talking to you. And I know we were talking a little bit before this, and there's such a runway of things that you and the rest of the CuteCircuit team have worked on. The SoundShirt is one that translates sound into haptic sensations. The Astral Envoy spacesuit is my personal favorite because it's just sick. I want to make that my phone background. The Katy Perry fits, not one, but multiple Katy Perry fits. So we're going to talk about all of that. But first, we want to understand, what is your background and how did you arrive at creating some of the most cutting edge fashion pieces? And even we were talking a little bit before this, you were talking about how you've been around since 2004, 21 years. And you kind of were ahead of your time. It feels like you're finally arriving, people are finally ready for what you have to offer. So talk to us about that background, how you got here, and when did it finally feel like people kind of got what you were doing here?
I originally studied architecture, but I always loved fashion. And my first job out of university was at Valentino in Rome. So I always loved high fashion. And I remember when I was there, I used to hide in the seamstress's room and see how everything was done in detail. And one of the things that was interesting for me was looking at new materials. And once I saw one of these new materials that was a luminescent thread, and I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to have an evening gown embroidered with this luminescent thread that would sort of react to the environment? So a woman could go to a party in this amazing evening gown and just have this glow on her body. And I was like, this would be amazing. And everybody looked at me like I was completely insane. And they're saying, no, this is not going to happen. Just design the normal evening gown that we got the Oscars to get ready with. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I was working later on at this free German company, and I was designing accessories. And I was always into technology somehow. And I was like, we could put a little tracker in the handbag so that if you forget it somewhere or somebody steals it from you, it could just send you a little message and tell you where it is. And they also looked at me, they were like, well, the previous handbag you designed, we sold hundreds of thousands of units, and we're not really interested in putting this technology in there. Who cares? We just want to sell as many as we can and not spend too much. I was like, okay. This really seems to be getting a point of contention in which I keep looking at new ways to make fashion more interesting or more useful, more customizable. And then people just keep telling me no. And it was at that point in 2001 that I read an article on a design magazine about a new research institute starting called Interaction Design Institute Ivrea. And Ivrea is the name of a very tiny town in northern Italy, in Piedmont. Some of the research areas were technology for cities, technology for homes, and technologies for the body. And I was like, yes, thank you. Somebody really understood what I'm getting at here. So that was 2001. I applied, I did an interview, and I managed to get in for 2 years of research and how to apply technology on the body. And also, why would people want to have technology on their body? What would you use technology for? And this was interaction design. And that's where I met my co-founder, Ryan Gantz. And we started working together. And actually, one of the first things we designed together was a hug shirt. In 2003, we spent like a year doing some experiments. And we started our company in 2004. And that's how CuteCircuit was born. So we met, also fell in love, started working together, do everything together, still to this day. And it's incredible. We got married 3 years ago. Took us longer to get married than to start the company together. The whole reason for the company is that we want to create technology that brings people together. And one of the more interesting places, I think, for technology is to be on the body, because it's sort of like a layer that allows you to connect with other people. Even like a garment without any technology connects you to the people around you, because they can just look at you and get a first impression. And so there is already this bridge between us and any other person around us that is just a visual bridge. As soon as I see you, they're like, that person is wearing this color, or that person is wearing this style. And you can sort of start thinking or imagine what they are thinking. So I think that's the interesting thing. It's like, how do we connect people? And I think that connecting people through clothing is a more intimate and straightforward and personal way of creating connectedness.
Speaking about the why behind embedding technology into garments and the connectedness there, your first Time Magazine awarded invention was the hug shirt, which some would describe as a groundbreaking garment introducing internet-connected clothing and touch telecommunication. They might even throw the word haptic in there. Others, like me, would describe it as a shirt that lets us send hugs to people over distance. Now, I want to know, who were you trying to send a hug to that made you create this shirt?
What really happened in this research institute is that we were tasked to design something desirable. And so we were like, okay, what are we going to create that people have a desire for? So we interviewed everyone that was doing research, and we were like researchers from all over the world, from all continents. So when we started interviewing that, it's like, so if you could wish for something right now, what would you wish for? And everybody replied, I want to be hugged. I miss my mom. I miss my boyfriend. I miss my girlfriend. I miss my auntie. Everybody somehow was missing and craving physical contact. And everybody wished for a hug from their loved ones. And everybody was far away from their loved ones. And so we were like, okay, how are we going to design a hug? So it was just like this really huge question. It's like, what do people like about the hug? They like the closeness. They like the physical sensation of someone holding you. They like the fact that when someone is hugging you, it gets warm. If someone hugs you, you feel protected. So it's a mix of physical sensations and also psychological aspects. And how does it make you feel, both mentally and physically? That became the really interesting question that we tried to answer. So this is what we set out to do. We tested a huge amount of materials. And then the greatest part of this whole experiment was that we got 50 people in a room wearing white t-shirts. And we went around with a marker, marking people's hands position on other person's bodies. And so we figure out which areas people touch the most when they hug someone. So it's like around the neck here, around the shoulders, around the waist, on the back. And so basically we created a map of human touch. And then we proceeded to add ways to actuate this human touch in these areas that were the areas of interest and focus for all the tactile sensations on the upper body. And so that's how the hug shirts came into being. And in the beginning, we had like little pumps that inflated, sort of a little bladder so that you would compress a person. Then we tried using nitinol wire that would just like change shape and contract when sort of a little voltage is applied. We used every possible and imaginable actuator. Then we settled on these vibration motors. We went with this little sort of a buzzer that you have in your phone, but just tinier and more delicate. And then it feels more like snap. That's a nice sensation. And so that's basically what happened. Like we created it 2002, and then we keep doing experiments 2004, 2005. And in 2006, we were invited to show it at Wire Next Fest in New York. So it happened that Time magazine went by. We didn't even know. They were just like, sorry, can you send it to us? We want to do a photo shoot. We're like, sure. And then we sent it to them to do this photo shoot. And then they're like, well, great, it was really good, and congratulations, it's one of the best inventions of the year. And we're like, what? So we didn't even realize what was going on. And like about 1 month later, it was on the cover of the best inventions. I was like, okay, this is amazing. And we only had 2 official samples that we had just shown at the Wire Next Fest. And all of a sudden, our website got about 3 million people trying to get online and buy them. And obviously, we had not even like manufactured this product, less of all industrialized it, because we were really just coming out of a series of research experiments. And so we're like, okay, people are interested in this kind of product. Let's just try to make it happen. And that's what we just kept doing. Like every 2 years, we kept doing like new versions and testing them and showing them. I think it's one of the products that got the most user testing ever, because it's just like every time we test it with hundreds of people, get their feedback. And then because we are a very small company, very agile, we just implement all the feedback we get.
When you say you get the feedback, is that because you have an app and technology and you could actually in real time see the usage? Is that what you're talking about?
We actually interview people. So people use it and then we say, okay, what did you like? What you didn't like? What could we do better? It's just like really listening to users. I think this is like something that usually not very many companies do. I think now there are many very like smaller AI companies that are really lovely and they ask users, please give us your feedback because we want to improve the product. And I'm testing a number of those and like as an early tester. And I was like, okay, fine. Somebody that figured out that if you want to make a nice product, you have to ask people why they like using it and how could they like it better. And so I think that's what we always do. Every time we do a change in the product, we just have people try it and then they tell us what they thought. And so that's the same thing that happened when we went from the HackShirt to the SoundShirt.
So you're not just researching to create the original product, you also research to iterate on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we are a non-stop iterative like process. We never stop innovating on the same product because, I mean, there are so many different people that use it and it keeps getting better and better and better. And I think that's important because otherwise product would like just stagnate at a certain level, but we want to make it better. So it's really funny because people come to us and they're like, could it also do this other thing? And we're like, just give us a minute or 2 or more. And many more hours, days, months, and then we do it.
Wow. Tech companies don't even do that. Like, I mean, I can say this because I work for one. I think that's the goal, but ultimately, a lot of times these bigger tech companies, you're a tech company, obviously, they'll like build something and then they'll move on to the next thing. So it's really interesting to see how, in your mind, a finished product is only as useful as it continues to be useful. And so therefore, there's probably no finished product. Like you just keep iterating.
I think it's like the iPhone. It keeps getting better and smaller or bigger, or the processor is faster, but I mean, it's still the same phone, right? And so the same thing is like with the HackShirt and the SoundShirt, it's still the same concept. This one still makes you do a phone call, right? But then you can do a better phone call. You can have more apps. You can reach more people. So I think it's the same process. I mean, it's like always a new product, but still is a continuation of sort of where it started and how it can improve and get faster and smoother.
So we've been interviewing a lot of innovative brands now, and one theme is the amount of user testing. A lot of them have really strong communities and really strong user testers that like far and exceed the average fashion brands. Like they get like a fit model and then move on. But what I'm hearing from yours, which is opening my eyes a bit, is to Frankie's point, software tech companies, we release a product and we iterate as far as like bug fixes and releasing some new features. And the companies that have a long longevity to them and like continue to be top of their game are the ones that continue to innovate and launch new software products, but continue to also maintain the original products they put out, right? Like actual beneficial features for the user set and all that kind of stuff versus the ones that maybe get more complacent, don't continue to innovate, but just like fix. And in the world of hardware, I'm thinking about Love Crave, this brand we interviewed with Pleasure Jewelry and just like even other CPG brands. Oftentimes for physical goods, we'll release like a 2.0 and it'll be like a definitive, like that was the first iteration, this was the second iteration. But I kind of hear you taking a mix of like all three fashion, garments, software, and hardware of the original product is going to continue to be iterated on and release new features and maybe even have different colorways, right? We do see that in fashion brands of like, oh, you love this chore jacket. Now it's in blue. And so bringing the best of those three worlds, or just like that's what you're in. So leveraging all of those different ways.
I mean, it's more fun because I would get bored if I was selling always the same product that always looked the same. So I think that's why also I keep changing things because wouldn't it be cooler if we actually did this other thing in the pattern cutting? And then why don't we do this other colorway because it's more exciting and it's more sleek? I remember once when I read the review that we had done like this really cool digital pattern on the SoundShirt. Some people had tried it and were like, oh, this is so cool. I feel like a superhero. And then this one person tries it. I think it's way too sporty and I would hate to wear this to go to the opera. I was like, just absolutely mortified. So like, okay, we're going to make a very sleek black version that is like your evening wear version of the SoundShirt. And then now we make it and now we're like, no, we are just making them black. And we are not making an digital print version because like, maybe this one person was right. It was way too sporty. And everybody goes to an opera or a concert, they want to be like cooler and just wear something else that they want to wear on top or read it. So we don't want to impact too much on people's style. So I was like, okay, let's make this super sleek version. And then everybody was happy. I was like, oh yeah, this is so sophisticated. I was like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's just somehow like there is like this one comment and I start to like take it very personally. And I'm like, oh, this person hated it. Why? And then I just try to excavate and understand the reason exactly and try to put myself in their shoes and say, oh yeah, I can see why they had such a strong reaction to this just one aspect, but they liked everything else. So I think it's interesting that, I mean, now how we are doing this is that we're so well organized that we just have like the layer of like the inner technology that is organized on textile and microelectronics. And then we can embed it in any kind of garment. And that's why we're doing this also with football now, because we can put it in any type of football shirt and it's just going to feel good, but then it's going to look like the fans want to look for their team. So it's just like really at the popular request. We just had to just comply with the request of the users and say, okay, yeah, you have every right to go to your football game and look like you belong to your team. So it was really interesting.
Wow. That does illustrate Lola's point of the layers and the types of feedback, whether it's like more fashion oriented or hardware or software oriented. I also want to point out, we're saying technology a lot. And I think that when you were talking about the hug shirt and the core need, something I know we all associate technology with these days. And I think that's because social media is top of mind. It's everyone's most, when they think about social media software, when they think about like using technology and being on technology. And so we're used to like the short reward, the dopamine rush we get from that. You're kind of going to an area of, or a layer of technology that I think most people haven't ventured to. When we hug people, it's very hard to replace a hug. We talk about how technology has made it so that we can FaceTime people who are miles and miles away. But at the end of the day, that never replaces the chemical release of a hug, the oxytocin we get of like really bonding true connection. So I want to call out for everyone who's listening, the layers within the human connection that you go past the surface level all the way to like the chemical is very, very cool with the hug shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, I think like with the hug shirt, we read so many research papers about like all the oxytocin and endorphins that get released in your brain just through human contact. And actually, it was just like so interesting to realize that something really similar happens also with the SoundShirt. Because, you know, like when like humans dance and just they experience music together, you get a whole other layer of like chemicals that are released within your body, and it gives you this feeling of euphoria. So like even like if I'm just sometimes alone in my office, I just put one on, pump up the music, and I just have my little dance off, and it feels like you're at the like a rave. It's so good. So I think it's antidepressant.
Yeah, that is such a natural way to get a little pep to your step, a little smile.
Lola, we need to add that to our dance parties.
Yeah, yes. In fact, you know, like before the pandemic, we used to have dance parties with SoundShirts every Friday in our office. And then obviously we had to stop, unfortunately. We didn't start again. But I mean, it was really fun because we would have like random people coming from other companies or just people just signing up on our website. And basically it would be like Friday afternoon after 3 p.m. when everybody in London decides that you have to go for a pint or for some other activity that is not work related. And we just get this bunch of people coming in and everybody would say, oh, let's just play my favorite song, this other song. And then we just have a little dance party. And we're just great. So I think there is something about like socializing both over distance and together. I find it like really intriguing, this idea that we can create sort of like a happiness or euphoria for people.
That's cool. We want to talk a little bit more about the hug shirt. Can you blame us? The information on your webpage for the hug shirt speaks volumes about you as a brand. It doesn't only go into the function and the aesthetics, like the usual, what does the consumer need to know, and what someone would expect, but there's like a whole section about the technology behind it and how it is meant to kind of be a step in for human touch when you can't have that immediately. And then it also goes into the materials used and how sustainable they are. So as a pioneer of fashion technology, like why is it important for you to explain your intentions and guidance for use? And this is Lola said this. She was saying that the shirt has more information supporting the user than ChatGPT does. So it's a very informative, supportive experience. Why is that important for you and also for the consumer?
Now, thank you for the question, but it has so much information because someone else complained that there wasn't enough information.
Oh, wow. So the feedback really goes deep. You really do take the feedback.
I really take the feedback to heart.
You listen and you're like, say less. I got it. I got it.
I read the emails and I read the comments. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this person really says, why don't you explain exactly how it works and what's inside? Because I have to buy it and I want to have all the information and I want to compare it. Let's go for it. And so one of the things I think it's the sustainability aspect. And it's really because, I mean, we want to design something that is good. So makes a human feel good. But we also don't want to be like this kind of company that creates a product just to create it because it's cool. And then on the side, you are polluting the environment. You are creating something that gets discarded after 2 uses. So I think we are the only company that is like a tech fashion company that has lifetime warranty on the products. So I literally have like some people that bought a product 8 years ago, 10 years ago. And they're like, oh, something broke. I think maybe this one, I banged it on something and it's not doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And we were just like, just send it to us. We're going to have a look at it. And if we still have parts and stuff, we're just going to fix it, send it back to you. So I have this thing that I never want to see one of my products like in a waste bin somewhere. So I think we either say, okay, if you don't want to use the product anymore, send it to us. We can recycle it and we will give you a discount for the next product, or just like if you want to keep using it, we're more than happy to maintain it. And that's why every time we give a software update, it can work retroactively on previous products, still compatible, because we don't want people to stop using the product, especially if they enjoy it. I think that the greatest thing is to get emails from somebody that says, oh, I wanted to use the handbag this weekend and I realized that I need the software update and send me the link. And it's like, yeah, that's great. I'll send it to you right away because I'm so glad you still want to use it. So I think it's just a different approach. It's like, I mean, we are straddling this strange gray area between fashion and technology. And, in fashion, there is so much waste. And in technology, probably there is as much. And I think it's very important to have a product that has as least amount of waste as possible. So also when we cut the patterns, we make sure that every part can be reused. If we don't cut too much, and if something gets is a cutout, the cutout is used to do something else in another product, which is like sort of a interesting engineering game and how you use your fabrics and how you use your materials. And then on the other hand, just making sure that everything can be disassembled and recycled. Like even the handbags we make. It's very nice because we have these handbags that are made out of aerospace aluminum, and then it's like gold plated. It's great. But basically, every handbag is made from one block of aluminum with a CNC machine, and then whatever is discarded, it's like smelted together to make another block, to make another handbag. And then all the little pieces of the handbag, like the closure and the little hooks, they are all made from the same block. And then if one really wanted, one can get this aerospace aluminum thing, remove all the electronics from the inside and just recycle it. So I like this idea that I'm creating something that people want to keep. Sort of like when our grandparents had the same coat or a very beautiful handbag for like 20, 30 years. I want to give that kind of value to the users that buy these products, because I don't think it's fair to make people buy something that breaks after 2 days. I think it's important to create things that last, because they're also beautiful to look at and are nice to touch.
What I'm hanging on to there a bit is some of the capstone elements that are so important, whether it's making the SoundShirt looking like someone would want to wear it to the opera, making it more sleek for more accessible use, or your website. They all came from consumer feedback, but you really internalized it and saw like, what can I do about this? But then also, I'm sure you're not taking everybody's feedback to heart like that, but having that discerning brain to say like, oh, what is this person really saying, and what can I do about it, and does it make sense for my brand? So I think that discernment is what can make or break a brand, right? Like there's always going to be feedback, and so knowing which ones to continue with and really double down on is a gift. So okay, this hug shirt, and then I swear we'll move on, but it's particularly noteworthy because it highlights what your pieces do. They are vehicles to communicate our style as identity, have you, while also giving us the ability to get more. And by more, I mean things we could never even fathom, like a hug, like a literal hug. Geez. Building off of that concept, then you released this sound shirt. They're so obviously kind of building off of those learnings and furthering that technology. The sound shirt allows both deaf and hearing audience members to experience music and sports even more intimately as like a multi-sensory experience. Now, as you push past these boundaries of communication, your products, they deeply resonate, but they're so new for us as a consumer. What is your go-to-market strategy for the sound shirt?
The Junge Symphoniker Orchestra in Hamburg, Germany, they contacted us. They said, we saw your hug shirt, and do you think that we could use hug shirts to make our deaf patrons feel music? And we were like, the famous give us a minute. We go think about it. And so we went to think about it. And we figured out that instead of using the mobile software that we use with the hug shirt, we could use the same technology, but create new software that could capture music in real time, analyze it, and then convert it into touch sensations. And so we did an experiment with them in which we just really got the hug shirt, created the software, and then we put the microphones on stage and we captured the music in real time, transformed it into these touch sensations, and had the deaf patrons feel it. And then immediately, this, like the Junge Symphoniker, I think they were fantastic because they collected the feedback of every single person who used the product for like a year. And then they sent us a big block of findings. And so we got all this feedback. And the most interesting was that they wanted more actuators because the ones we had put weren't enough because we hadn't put enough on the front. And we only had put 2 on the sleeves and just 4 on the back. They wanted more. And then not only more, they wanted these actuators to be stronger, like real different like size of actuators. I was like, okay, let us do some more research. So then we did a second version in which we had more actuators. So we went from having like 16 to all of a sudden having 20. Now we have 28. And basically, the thing was really interesting because we started with like one tiny little vibration motor, and now we have 3 different kinds of vibration motors inside. So then we tested it again, and they were like, oh yeah, this fits so much better. Because at that point, and the thing that happened is that you can get really good like violins up here, and they're more treblier, and so you need something more delicate. But then if you have the timpani and the drums at the back, you want something that's really like kicking it, like boom. And so it feels like stronger and it gives you that sensation like really appropriate and really fast and really strong. We started calculating what the travel time was for the sensation to go back and forth from the moment the sound is captured to when your shirt starts vibrating and doing its thing. Everything for the human perception, if it's above 40 milliseconds, feels like there is a delay. So we're managing to keep this whole system below 20 milliseconds, sometimes below 15 milliseconds, depends on the data packets. So basically, it feels real time because you don't want to have like a deaf person in the audience or a hard of hearing person in the audience. And something happens and they feel it like 30 seconds later. That would be just absolutely dreadful. So everything has to be real time. And that was, I think, the most complicated thing. Because at that point, we know how to build the garments. We know how to make them soft and washable and stretchy. And that's great. But now we are managing this whole other thing that is about how you convert sound into touch sensations and make it happen in real time. And that's like the really hard part. And we keep just sending software updates to all the orchestras we work with. Every few months, we say, we got a new update for you. This is even more precise. So we just keep doing it just because we have actually have fun doing it.
From the outside looking in, it feels like you do a lot of work to get to what the final product, but even just talking to you goes to show we weren't even close to how much work actually goes into it. So that's really, really impressive. And we've spoken with several utility and design patent holders now, and we've had some learnings that we'd love to run by you and see. And it feels like maybe there are some similar themes here. One is that we've observed that people get both utility and design patents if they can, even though they don't technically prevent people from copying you, they just enable you to defend yourself against dupes. We've also learned too that utility, we spoke to for them, and we learned that utility design patents can sometimes make it safer for users too, which you might resonate with given how much technology goes into your product and like making sure people who might dupe what you're trying to do don't do it in a way that might put the user or the consumer at risk. So that's another thing. And then lastly, they take a long time to acquire. You have at least 5 utility patents alone, 3 to 4 design patents. Maybe, you partnered with Chanel on the handbags. So like, what is your approach to patents? And as a global brand, how do you handle protecting your intellectual property internationally? Like that's like a whole other, the playing field is so much bigger.
Yeah, so I think like on patents, I used to like them more many years ago than I do now. Because, I mean, sometimes there are very large companies that infringe on smaller companies' intellectual property. And unless you have like some spare millions to defend your patent, there's not very much you can do. And so that's like one annoying aspect. But one thing that I actually found really good satisfaction with is trademarks that we never speak about because we're always thinking about the design patent. But the design patent, somebody changes one tiny thing, is basically not that useful. The utility patent, that's very good because it involves a whole process and a mechanism, so that's great. But I think the trademark is also very useful, especially now that we are in a more socially mediated era. I think that people recognize names and brand names more, and they wouldn't really care about what the patent looks like. And I feel like trademarks are giving me joy. Because actually with the trademark, it's so obvious if somebody tries to call their product with the name of your product that you can just very simply get your legal team to say, sorry, but you cannot call this the SoundShirt Plus because, hello, the SoundShirt already exists and is established, so please don't do that. And then people desist. I feel like for many brands, especially like younger brands, I think trademarks, because if people start recognizing the product by the name, then I think it's very important to at least protect the name because, I mean, there are going to be so many people trying to copy the product and many times they don't build it correctly. Like, for example, when we did our collaboration with Chanel, literally like 2 months later, the market was flooded with copies that were made in Vietnam, China, Malaysia, Thailand, you name it. And they had copied our circuit design, but they had not mounted all the safety components that we had mounted on our circuit. They had also copied our brand name, but used the wrong font. And that's how we recognized that wasn't original. And then, given that they had removed all the safety mechanisms for charging specifically, there were people that would plug these fake bags to charge and they would explode. And then we would get calls saying, oh, but you said CuteCircuit. So yeah, it was like, yeah, just send us a picture. And then we would see that it was the wrong font, the components were not there, and they were like dupes. And then we had to go and tell Chanel, oh, we got the dupes here and they're not being built correctly. So it kind of looks almost the same, but then you can tell that the leather is not that great. And by the way, when the users put it to charge, the worst happens. So I think that there are ways to protect a product, either like by building it really well or by enforcing intellectual property defenses. But I think still building products well is what's most important, because one can tell when a product is not done correctly. It just doesn't behave right and is dangerous, especially with electronics. So I think it's really funny because like even one of those fake handbags I saw, I mean, we have really tiny switches inside that you almost cannot see. And this fake bag had the switch that you would find on a lamp, like a side table lamp, like a switch this size. So you would open the bag. And instead of looking elegant and sleek, there would be like this lamp switch.
Francesca, thank you so much for sharing all these beautiful details about your products. And we can't wait to see the next thing you all come out with.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you.
Hey everybody, Lola here. Thanks for listening. Style as Identity is part of the Majority Group, which is focused on spotlighting and supporting the brands that make us feel seen. In addition to this podcast, we offer business and strategy advice to brands, have an investment arm, and more. Basically, we want to see you win and do what we can to make it happen. For more info on us, head to themajoritygroup.com. Love ya.